What's up, guys? I'm Rain. And so are you. I think one of the real plagues that allows so many of the forces that operate within American and other societies to operate is the concept of individualism. Now, if you caught my stream while I was talking about politics and theory and stuff, you're probably a little familiar with some of the things I'm going to talk about. But what it boils down to, the TLDW, is the idea of individuality presented as this like liberating thing, but actually being really harmful to us in a lot of really specific ways. We should be our own people. We should have the freedom to make our own decisions. And I'm not saying that we should subsume ourselves to some sort of like socialist hive mind or anything like that. But the idea of individuality trumping everything that exists in every sphere that we enter all over the world is just wrong. It's bad. It's clearly something that is toxic and pits us against each other and divides us. Now you might say, well, yeah, but like that's just the way that it is. We're individuals. We have the right individually to make our own decisions and be self-determined in all of these sorts of things. And I tend to agree. I'm a sort of anarchist or whatever, right? Like, who knows anymore? Like, who gives a shit about labels? But as somebody who generally sort of follows a lot of anarchist thought, individuality is paramount in anarchism. Each of us able to do the things we want to do, pursue the things we want to pursue, and take care of our neighbor and our community and our society and get care in return. Eradicating government, allowing individuals to pursue their own self-interest so long as it doesn't cause harm to other people. Pursuing mutual self-interest with our community and all that sort of stuff. And I do believe that. So I'm not arguing here against the individual units of us being able to pursue our own self-interests or the interest of our community, anything like that. Hopefully I will make this clear as we go on. What I do want to impart in the coming line of thinking is the idea that the individuality we think we intrinsically have is false. The single divided individuals that we think we are and that we think we aren't, at the end of the day, doesn't exist. There's very little material difference between you and me. Now you're sitting here watching this video and maybe you've subscribed to my channel and maybe you haven't. Either way, you wound up here watching this video and I'm interacting with you and you're receiving this interaction. I'm speaking into a microphone. I've got a camera. There's a screen in front of me showing me what you'll be seeing and a little meter that shows how loud you'll hear me. And you're sitting there on your couch in your office or on the bus with your phone, and there are these layers in between us, right? There's this difference in who is giving and who is receiving in this interaction. Even calling it an interaction seems a bit of a misnomer because I'm sitting here in my place in the universe right now at 8:34 in the morning on a Monday, and you're sometime later, you're in my future and you're receiving this information. Maybe it's a few hours from now, maybe it's a few days from now, maybe it's a few years from now, but we are discrete entities at discrete places in discrete times. And we're having our own little discrete interaction ourselves. My interaction with the camera is one that everyone watches, but you're in your own discrete and unique perspective from the other person who might watch it. And if you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Is he on? Not presently, but you can help fix that by going to patreon.com/rain101 and giving me some money that I can use to buy Anyway. Fuck was I talking about? The infinite complexity of the universe has led you here to this video, and you are now connected to me. And if you're still here, you keep that connection. And if you leave, if you're like, this is fucking rambling nonsense and go somewhere else, you still have that connection. You had this interaction with me, however long or however brief, and that has gotten somewhere into your head, and it's going to inform your future decisions that you make, and it's going to inform future decisions that I make. You might think this relationship is just one way, like I'm producing and you're consuming, but that's not the whole case, because how you consume affects what I produce. I look at the little bar in the analytics and go, oh, people don't like this video at 3 minutes and 42 seconds. And that's when everyone leaves. So I gotta hook them in quicker, or whatever the fuck it is, right? Your interaction with this video influences my future decisions, whether you're aware of it or not. And maybe it's not your individual click away that changes the number to something I don't like or whatever it is. That doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, right? We are having an interaction, even if you're not actively speaking to me the same way I'm actively speaking to you, which also isn't necessarily true because I'm actively speaking to a general you. But the general of you now is a specific you in the future that I can't see. This has always been the case, although it's always been the case that we were going to be connected, and it's always been the case that we have been connected. We just didn't have a YouTube algorithm to make that connection for us or to inform us that we should pay attention to it. But I exist in the universe because of all sorts of decisions, the bouncing of molecules and atoms from like 4 billion years ago to now, just like you have. And we share the finite number of atoms that exist on this planet within our like massive to us, but insignificant to the scope of the universe ecosystem of atoms that are bouncing around and change shape and form and come together into certain molecules and then split into different molecules and then break down into their base atoms and join up with something else later in the future. You're made of the same stuff I am. And it's the same stuff as the dinosaurs, the same stuff as the protozoa that crawled out of the goop or whatever and became, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, I'm not a paleobotanist, but it's all shared in the same finite ecosystem of material that has led us to our own discrete moments in time. Whether it's your discrete moment in my future or my discrete moment in your past, it's all the same. The idea that each of us are individuals that are so pure and discrete from one another is absurd. It's just bonker sauce wild because we are not. We are all sharing, as we all have, all over, shared the same finite ecosystem of material. And hopefully sometime in the future, when I die, my atoms will turn into some other stuff that turns into some other stuff that eventually partially turns into another person who is a better YouTuber than me. When you start to see the entirety of creation as interconnected, as intertwined, as necessarily enmeshed with one another, you start to see that you as an individual are not exclusively an individual. And when you think about it this way, it might seem obvious, right? But blow it out. You go to the store and you see there are other people. You walk down your street and you can see your neighbors in your community, and we can extrapolate as wide or narrow a scope as we want to. And all steps along the way, we're going to find ourselves in some kind of community, some sort of broader connection that we have. Now, let's say you move into an apartment and you never leave. You get everything dropped off at your door. It's ordered and delivered by drones. You're still connected to the broader community of people who make those systems happen that allow you to live this ascetic and hermetic lifestyle. Even though you're like, I've forsworn all communication, all contact with the outside world, you're still reliant on the outside world to allow that lifestyle to occur. And even then, you're still living in a place that was built by people. You have electricity, water services that are served by other people. You have the vast history of human experience that allows you to live comfortably without other people. Because historically, if you were to seal yourself away and have no direct human contact, that's been like death. You have a death wish or have been banished or are so hermetic and committed to living off the land that you go feral. You basically become an animal. And the instances of this happening successfully in recorded history, I don't know. I don't think there's that many. Most people going all the way back to like nomadic tribes roaming the steppes or whatever were in tribes where people gathered together. And we have allowed ourselves through technology to become less and less connected to people, to become more individualistic in such a way that we genuinely believe we are individuals when we're not that. We are able to exist, survive, produce, and consume as individual entities when we simply are not. The point is that your idea of your individualism is something that has been crafted to be used against you. And you have seen the people for whom this is the most true. You've seen the people in my Twitch chat, in your Twitch chat, in the street somewhere, out there on Twitter, who genuinely believe that it is in each and every individual's responsibility to look after themselves. Every man for himself, right? It's me and maybe my family, which they don't see betrays the falsehood of their ideology, but that's neither here nor there. They say, no, if you want something, you got to go get it. If you need something, you're responsible for it. Society doesn't owe you anything. Despite the fact that the only reason they're in a position where they can even make that assertion is because society has led them to that point. There's no such thing as the fully distinct individual. You have things you like and things you don't, things that interest you and you want to pursue and things you would prefer to avoid. And almost all of these things are shaped by the society around you. What do you have access to? What don't you have access to? What resources do you have at your disposal for changing your situation? The circumstances of so many of these things are completely outside of your control. Like 99% of the time, all of the answers to these questions are determined by the circumstances of your birth, which is the result of people who are not you making decisions before you were ever conceived. I currently live in Colorado. I don't have oceans near me. I don't get to learn to surf. I moved around a lot of places as a young person, but really hardly any place with convenient access to the ocean. I didn't get to learn to surf or deep water fish or any stuff related to the ocean. The hobbies, interests, ideas that I have are shaped by the world around me. Colorado is this politically, and the terrain and the geography and the climate and the people and the history, all of these things that are this, and this is the shape of the world that I get to engage with. And so the ideas that I might have are a result of the shape of the world that I can engage with. Except here we are in 2022, and that's not completely true anymore. Except also it is. And we know that it is. I can talk to somebody from LA or New York or Paris or Rome or New Delhi or somewhere in Singapore or wherever the fuck it is. I can have that interaction with them and see things maybe through their point of view, but I'm still comparing it to my lived experience within a certain place, in a certain shape. Just like you are, just like everybody is. We're bouncing all of these things off of each other, looking at somebody else's worldview compared to our own and deciding what we like and what we don't. But at the end of the day, we're still really just taking that into our little meat space milieu. It's like introducing a house rule to a game you play. Some people are going to be like, oh, that's a great rule change. And some people are going to say, ooh, I really don't like that. But at the end of the day, you're still filtering it through the lens of what's happening around you in your cultural milieu, which is different from somebody else's who lives somewhere else. But you didn't have that access 400 years ago, 200 years ago, like we do now. Our community is only getting larger as our understanding of our community somehow gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So how is it that our access to the broad scope of human experience gets wider, and yet our understanding of ourselves within it has become narrower? Is this coincidence? Is it circumstance? Is it just that we collectively decided to gain access to this vast collection of human experience, historical and contemporary, and decided to say, you know what? I see 7.5 billion other people on the planet. I have access to all their experiences, and I'm going to see myself as distinct and individual and unique from all of them and discard all these things, push it out the window and reaffirm my own individuality. We have the opportunity to create a shared global communications culture. And what do? We retreat further and further and further into the idea of our own individuality, which flies in the face of every single thing human beings have been doing in recorded history up to this point. So we either did that coincidentally, collectively, as a culture, or we were herded and shepherded and pushed in that direction to meet someone else's interests. Which do you think is more likely? Now, not every time human beings have gotten a greater understanding of another culture have we just broadened our borders and welcomed them in with open arms. There's always been tribalism, which means tribe. But when it's so easy to see the other as not other at all. When we get to see that somebody in Argentina or Chile or Nicaragua or Australia or Chad or Nigeria or any other place on the planet ain't terribly different from us, we get empathy. We make a connection. We start to see other human beings as the same as us. And yet, despite that, we're drawing more and more lines, tighter and tighter borders, both real in the sense of on a map and abstract in the sense of in digital spaces and in our heads. So much of the contemporary propaganda we've been fed, at least in my lifetime, has been to convince each of us individually how special, unique, and distinct we are. And not just for the purpose of inflating our egos and creating a sense of optimism and all these sorts of things, but as a deliberate move to deceive. When your unique, subjective perspective is given to you, is shown to you to be meaningful, special, and important, it creates the idea that there are other unique, subjective perspectives that are maybe more or maybe less useful, meaningful, and important than yours in the way that we determine these things in contemporary, at least American society. We determine in contemporary society whose viewpoints are more meaningful or useful through platforms. And we have platforms by way of money. And money oftentimes seems to be the arbiter of whose insight, whose subjective and unique experience is more meaningful than someone else's. People who have money have more access, more opportunity, and a bigger platform. And people who don't have money have less opportunity and a smaller platform. So what's different when everyone has a platform, when everyone has access, when everyone has a voice and is able to put their voice out there? Well, we get competition with other people. Rather than allowing more voices to rise up, it actually sequesters a lot of voices. You go on Twitter and you post a thing and it gets like 2 likes and you're like, man, I thought this was like a really good tweet, but no one is really engaging with it. And you see someone else who appears to be completely vapid or uninspired, who's clout chasing, who's just trend chasing, shilling for a company, trying to push an agenda. And you say, why does this person get to be heard louder than me? And you experience this day in and day out. But you know at the same time, the opportunity is out there. The promise that someday, eventually, your voice could be heard that loud, and people will be exposed to your ideas, and people will see you for how important you are. And the only way to make that happen is to keep engaging with the platform. And so you keep engaging with the platform, and the platform benefits, and you may or may not. It's kind of like winning the lottery. You spend a little bit of money, buy a ticket, hoping that lightning strikes for you. And if it does, congratulations. You've got a whole host of mental health crises coming down the pipe. But the underlying truth that you've been sold is that you, individually, separate and distinct from others, are important. So important, in fact, that you don't actually need those others. You know that people exist hierarchically on a higher scale than other people. All you need is the opportunity for those inferior people to hear your superior message. And surely people will stop and take notice. But when you have millions, billions of people who all feel the same way, it puts us in competition with each other. I'm competing with other people out there on YouTube for your attention, and thank you for giving it to me. We see this in workplaces all the time too, where people are being paid different amounts of money for the same work, and we're discouraged from communicating with one another. How much I'm making, how much my raise was, how much this person is making, because it's seen as impolite or uncouth or whatever the fuck. Even though it would benefit each of us individually to know collectively what it looks like for each of us individually. And we're seeing more and more that people are beginning in our generation, in my generation and younger, are beginning to discard these uncouth social niceties because we're seeing how they're weaponized against us, how competition with our coworkers harms all of us rather than benefiting any of us. And who benefits are the people who have imposed these rules on us in the first place. When we discard our competitive individuality, we start to see that our cooperative individuality is far, far stronger. That's what unionizing and all of these things that are happening is. They allow us to get together and collectively bargain and say, we together are going to be treated this way, rather than I'm looking out for myself. I'm going to get treated a certain way, and I don't really give a shit what Tina in accounting gets treated like. Because you do. You see this person, you get to know them as an individual, and you get to see how their work affects you and your work affects them. You see you're part of an ecosystem, even though you see there's these artificial barriers being put up to keep you away from being and seeing how truly connected you are. And as you start to take this idea and broaden it and extrapolate it into so many other things, you realize it's true of all other things, all other elements of human society. Anywhere you start to see your subjective and unique perspective is just one subjective and unique perspective. You start to see that your subjective and unique perspective is just one subjective and unique perspective. You start to see that your subjective and unique perspective is just one subjective and unique perspective. See that your subjective and unique perspective is just one subjective and unique perspective. For all human society, any and everywhere you go, you start to see that your subjective and unique experience is just one subjective and unique perspective. You start to see that your subjective and unique perspective is just one subjective and unique perspective. You begin to see that your subjective and unique perspective is just one subjective and unique perspective. And each one is equally valid. And each one is equally real. So when you start to realize that every single person's perspective around you is unique, subjective, real, and valid, it starts to open up your understanding, not just of yourself, but of others, and then not just of others, but collections of others, of which you are a part, because for each of those others that you see as other, they see you as other, and yet you're all interconnected all the same. Once you start to see the infinite connections between all people and all things and all decisions and all histories and all futures, it becomes much, much easier to stop forcing yourself to be an individual. Stop buying into the myth that you as an individual are more important than the community around you, because without the community around you, you, the individual, would not exist, and certainly would not exist in the way that you think you do. And then you start to look at the owners. You look at the billionaires who make things, and you pull apart who all actually is involved in the making of those things. And how much does that one person actually contribute? You start to see all of the history leading up to that point of creation, of that thing, that product that makes your life so much better. You see every single decision leading up to that point by millions of human beings throughout human history. All of them matter. We don't go from darkness to the light bulb just by way of Thomas Edison. There are so many discoveries, material and abstract, made throughout all of history that lead us to that point. How do you get the materials out of the ground that you need to make a light bulb? Did Thomas Edison just do all of that? How do you learn what materials can and cannot conduct electricity? Did Thomas Edison do that? How did you learn about what electricity is for conductivity to be a thing in the first place? Is Thomas Edison responsible for glass blowing? Did Thomas Edison do all that? Or is he indebted to the centuries of thought, labor, discovery needed to make the light bulb possible? Which is not even to mention that he's actually just kind of stole it from a bunch of other people in the first place, but whatever. There is no such thing as individual achievement. There is no personal success. There is no me and you. There's just us. And when you get on board with that, when you get on board with us, that's when the magic happens. That's when human society moves forward. You might think some of these ideas are familiar, and parts of it are certainly lifted whole cloth from Kropotkin, who wrote it down like 200 years ago. So if you haven't read The Conquest of Bread and other stuff that Kropotkin wrote, go and do that. You also might be asking, okay, what's the point, Rain? What's the message? What's the mood? Why did you do this? Well, because a thought occurred to me at like 5 a.m. and I wanted to share. And I hope you stuck around and listened to the whole thing. And if you want to hear more of these thoughts, again, feel free to support me at patreon.com/Rain101 so that we can continue to make interesting things. I love you. Thank you. And I'll see you again soon.